Welcome students of Standard 8th. I am Miss Annie and we will learn the second chapter in History, Europe and India. In this module, we will learn the following topics. First, the period of Renaissance. Second, religious reform movement. Third, geographical discoveries. Fourth, intellectual revolution in Europe. Fifth, revolution in political sphere. Sixth, American War of Independence. Seventh, French Revolution. We begin with the introduction. During the modern period, the various happening in Europe, it had its effect in India. Therefore, we have to study the events that are happening in Europe during this period while we study the period of modern Indian history. So we begin with the first topic, period of Renaissance. Now Renaissance means rebirth, revival, new awakening. Now in history of Europe, the last phase of medieval period, that is 13th to 16th century, is known as the period of Renaissance. Now before the 13th century medieval period was known as the Dark Age, where there were many wars, famine, disease, and it is during this period that reformation took place, that is reform or changing the society. Religious reform movement took place, that is to bring a change in the religion. Geographical discoveries, where man learned to travel by sea route, all these laid the foundation of the modern era. Hence this period is also known as the age of Renaissance. Now when I said revival, during this period it was the revival of the Greek and the Roman cultural tradition, and it brought a lot of change in the field of art, architecture, philosophy, etc. And this Greek and Roman culture tradition gave momentum to an overall development. Momentum is the force which gained in movement. So during the Renaissance period, humanitarianism was given great impetus. Impetus means encouragement. There was change in the outlook of treating each other as human beings. In the Dark Age, religion was given more importance. All the paintings were on gods, the statues were made on gods, poems were written on gods. Man was nowhere in sight. So during the Renaissance period, man became the center point of all ideologies. Ideologies means ideals and values. And the reform movement that spread throughout all sector of human life. Through knowledge, science, as well as different section of art, we can observe the discoveries of the reform movement. The art and literature of the Renaissance period depict means they show sentiments, emotions of human beings, feelings of common man, joys and sorrows. All these were depicted only in the Renaissance period, where man was given more importance. So literature was produced in the local language of the people, German, French, Spanish, for better understanding of the common people. Because during the Dark Ages, it was only the Latin language and common people didn't know Latin. The books were all handwritten and common man did not possess any books. Only the rich people could afford to buy the handwritten books. So in the year 1450, Johannes Gutenberg from Germany, he discovered the printing press. And during this discovery, new ideas, concept, knowledge reached to all the sections of the society. Common man got books only after the invention of the printing press, and it was printed in the local language. So, man had access to books after the invention of the printing press. So, these were the changes that took place in the Renaissance period. We move to a personality who brought about a change. There were many others, but we are learning one of them, that is Leonardo da Vinci. He is recognized as an all round personality of the period of Renaissance. He was well versed in different branches of science and art. He had mastery over various subjects such as sculpture, architecture, mathematics, engineering, music, astronomy, etc. But he became world renowned as a painter. And his painting of Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, that became immortal. Immortal means we remember them even today. Many writers tried to explain her thought behind her smile. The woman in the portrait in Mona Lisa looks so real. Even the painting of the Last Supper, where Jesus had supper with his disciples for the last time, shows minute details of facial expression and body language. So, Leonardo da Vinci, he had written 19 books on various subjects: plants, science, circulatory system, aircraft, submarine, etc. So this man was master in science as well as in art. It's very rare. And there were many others who also contributed, just like Leonardo da Vinci, towards the Renaissance period to bring about a awakening, to bring about a revival, a rebirth. And that's how the society changed. The next topic which we will do is the religious reform movement. The independent intellectuals. Now, independent intellectuals are people like Erasmus, John Calvin, Martin Luther. They were, and many others, who attacked the old religious ideologies, ideals, or values of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, I had told you that before the printing press, common man never possessed a Bible. So, common man never knew what is there in the Bible. They never understood Latin language. So, the Christian priests were taking advantage of the ignorance of the people, and they were indulging in unnecessary rituals. They were making people perform rites which were not required, which is not told in the Bible. But since the people don't are ignorant, are not aware about it, so they were taking advantage of that. And the movement that began against the religious, it is known as the religious reform movement. Now these intellectuals, they made the people aware. It was Martin Luther who translated the Bible into German language, the first Bible. And he told the people to read the Bible and see what is there for themselves, and not to listen blindly to people and follow. So he posted 99 theses in the Wittenberg church. And there were many other people who were following Martin Luther. So a new sect arised, that is the Protestant sect. And it is this Protestant Reformation which led to the modern democracy, civil rights, individualism, and many other modern values which are cherished today. So, due to this movement, human freedom and rationalism means broad thinking, that was given more importance. So, after the Bible was printed, the priest could not cheat the people because it was in their local language, and the people now knew what is there. So, even we go to the next topic, that is geographical discoveries. In 1453 AD, the Ottoman Turks conquered Constantinople. Today it is known as Istanbul. And that was the capital of Byzantine Empire. During those days, the merchants from Europe used to travel to Asia, and merchants from Asia used to travel to Europe. Now, since the Turks blocked this route, there was need to find an alternative trade route for the European countries to reach Asia. So, this led to a new phase of geographical discoveries, and that's how they started to find a sea route to reach the eastern part of the world, that is Asia. The things in the eastern countries were more in demand in the west. So we move to the first sailor. In 1487 AD, Bartholomew Dias, a Portuguese sailor, began his expedition in search of India. But he reached the tip of African continent, and he named this tip the Cape of Good Hope. Then in 1492 AD, Christopher Columbus, he set on his journey to India by sailing towards the west. But he reached on the eastern coast of the continent of America, and he thought that he had reached India. Then you have in 1498 AD, Portuguese sailor Vasco da Gama, who managed to sail past the Cape of Good Hope and reach the Indian coast in Calicut. And finally, he was successful in finding the sea route to India. Then we move to the intellectual revolution in Europe. Now, due to the changes during the Renaissance period, Europe proceeded or moved from medieval to modern age. Intellectual revolution means people started reasoning, and this revolution took place in the same period. The society started stepping out of the past ignorance. First, they were not aware, and they were blindly following, blind faith. So, all these pre established customs and traditions were challenged, and they came to be seen from a critical point of view. So, all these changes are addressed as intellectual revolution, which gave further momentum to scientific discoveries in Europe. So, man gave more importance to observation, and therefore scientists like Newton, Galileo, Copernicus, they were successful, and many scientific discoveries took place during the Renaissance period. It is because of these scientists today we are enjoying this modern life. We go to the next topic, that is revolution in political sphere. In the early stage of beginning of modern period in Europe, many political changes took place due to the various revolution events during the 18th as well as the 19th century. And this period is known as the Age of Revolution. Now, in England, there was monarchy, that is, a king or a queen ruling over. And during this period, there was development of parliamentary democracy in England. And there was change in the form of the cabinet system. The king and the queen, they had absolute right. Absolute monarchy means absolute right and powers. So that the parliament in England changed by passing the Bill of Right in the year 1689, and they laid limitations on the power of the king. So the king's power was reduced and the parliament had more powers. So the sovereignty of the parliament was established. Sovereignty means the supreme power. And that is how the democratic power increased and there was changed. All these influenced new ideas of enlightenment for the American Revolution, which we are going to learn the next topic, the French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, which took place during this period. So we move to American War of Independence. Now I had told you about the geographical discoveries. It was Amerigo Vespucci who had first discovered America. Therefore, the name is given America. But he was not successful and died on the way. And it was Christopher Columbus who reached America, eastern coast of the continent of America, but he thought he had landed in India. So no one was aware of such a land, country that was existing. They only during the expedition they came to know that such a land is existing, and it was a new continent. So all the Western countries people started migrating to America. With the discovery of America, the European countries, they turned their attention towards this continent. And the imperialist European countries, the imperialists are the powerful countries who are establishing their colony, just as they had established in India also colonies in Africa, in Australia and so on. So they took control of the different regions of America and they established their colonies. And England had 13 colonies on the east coast of America. Initially, England had nominal domination over these colonies. But later on, the English Parliament laid oppressive restriction and taxes, the burden of heavy tax on these American colonies. So the people of America revolted against England Parliament under the leadership of George Washington, and finally they won against England. And this event is known as the American War of Independence, a new nation known as the United States of America with a federal government. Federal government means independent in its internal affairs. A written constitution based on principle of democracy was born. So the French Revolution, they were inspired by the American War of Independence. And they set example for all the other countries in the world to fight for your independence. we move to the last topic, French Revolution. In 1789, the people of France revolted against the uncontrolled and unjust monarchy. So here also in France there was one king, and there was lot of social inequality, feudalism, which had three class of people. The top two classes of people enjoyed luxurious life and did not pay tax. And it is the third class of people who paid all the taxes, that is, the common people. They were under the burden of the tax. And these monarchies, they had a lot of debts and they could not manage the finance. And there was political mismanagement also. So, French Revolution took place because of these 3 points: the rise of social inequality and not managing the debts, as well as the political upheaval. Now, not managing debts means financially the country what economically going down, and it is only the third class people who are paying the taxes, and the first two class refuse to pay the tax. So because of this social inequality, it is the third class people who fought against monarchy, against feudalism, and brought about democracy in France. So the French Revolution gave the world three values of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Liberty is independence, freedom; equality, all are equal; and fraternity is brotherhood. Now, countries like India, Africa, they were inspired by the French Revolution. And French Revolution was an important revolution where the whole world, the world history, among the political revolution, the American War of Independence and French Revolution has a very important place. And they set example for all the other countries in the world to revolt for unjust, uncontrolled monarchy and fight for your freedom. So that is why American War of Independence and French Revolution are very important and turning point in the history of the world. Thank you.